We're going to talk about how I lost my first client. What's up, beautiful people? I'm Tiana and I'm a North Carolina realtor. And for those of you that don't know, I make videos about real estate and what it's like to be a new agent in this crazy market. Typically, I take you on a day in the life with me, or I give you tips and tricks. But today we're going to do something just a little bit differently. Today we're going to talk about how I lost my first client. And hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. If that interests you, go ahead and subscribe and keep watching. Yep, yeah, you definitely heard me right. We're going to talk about how I lost my first client. Now, if you are a real estate agent, then you know client, well, that's kind of subjective. They could have been your buyers, you could have a non-exclusive agreement, no agreement at all. Depends on what stage you're in. So for the purpose of this story, I'm just gonna let you know I did not have any sort of contract with these guys, and I didn't pin them down. But they were my first clients. So let's start. It was a bright and sunny day, much like today. No, seriously. This would be my first clients outside of my sphere. Shout out to my sphere, because they've been doing wonderful things for me. People that love me and know me and trust my judgment and are willing to kind of stick with me while I learn and learn how to maneuver this. Shout out to y'all. But this would have been my first clients outside of my sphere. So people that I did not know at all prior to being contacted for real estate services. And they wanted to buy a house. Perfect clients. Beautiful couple. They had one child. Very sweet people, already pre-approved. They'd been homeowners before, so familiar with the process. They were every new agent's dream. How did I mess that up? I was spending about 2 hours in transit just to get to the general area where they were looking for a home, but I was willing to do that because, like I said, this would have been my first clients outside of my sphere, and I was very excited just to work with them, very eager. So we speak on the phone. They come to me through lead generation that my broker takes care of, so that's how I receive them. We speak on the phone. They tell me their preferences, what they're looking at. They ask for some information about a particular property. I was able to provide that information. I reach out and I schedule a showing. All is going well. I get to the showing. I get there early. I'm able to cut on the lights, check out the area. I'm reading the description. I even texted the listing agent to find out little quirks and things like that, so that when they get there, I am ready. I'm ready to answer their questions. I'm knowledgeable about the property, and I am ready to show this home. So they arrive. And they are just as nice in person as they are over the phone, or as they were over the phone. And they start to walk around and they just start to ask me questions that I was not prepared for. All of the reading that I've done before and all of the prepping just completely goes out of my head. So when they asked me how many days the property had been on the market, and I was like, I think that was mistake number one. I had access to that information. There was no need for me to stutter and stammer over it, because I simply could have looked it up. I could have said, oh, one moment, and looked it up and had the correct information readily available. But I didn't. I said, I think this, and by the time I looked, I think I gave out 2 or 3 different numbers, all of which were wrong when I finally got the right information. They asked me when the house was built, and I confused it with another home. Point 2, something else I could have easily just looked up, but instead of looking it up, I'm trying to go off my memory, and that was a mistake. But very nice people. They rolled with it. I corrected myself. We laughed about it. Ha ha ha. We kept moving. Now, they don't seem too upset about it. They don't seem too bothered, but I am having a hard time recovering, because I'm just like, why don't you know how many days it was on the market, and why can't you tell them, or why couldn't you tell them when the home was built? I'm being very hard on myself, and you can tell I'm being very hard on myself because I'm shifting the room, right, with my self-doubt. So number 3, I'm all in my head, and I'm spending less time focusing on my clients and more time focusing on myself. Don't do that. No one expects you to be a robot. No one expects you to be able to riddle things off the top of your head. And if they do, oh well. It is much better, trust me, much better to be able to look up information and get it correctly and have it readily available at your fingertips than to try to remember, get something wrong, and then struggle to recover once you've done that. Be confident in your abilities. That's future Tiana talking now. All right, so that was the first showing. Honestly, I'm probably making a big deal of it, and it really probably wasn't. We spoke, and they had a nice time. They didn't want to make an offer on that property, wanted to see other things, and they asked me when I was available. We scheduled a day to go see multiple showings. So typically what I would have done would, one, either get them to sign an exclusive buyer's agreement before we ever go out, or since it came through lead gen, I did want a chance to meet them, face to face, to make sure that we liked each other. And I had every intention of asking them to sign an exclusive buyer agreement after looking at the first home. But because I tripped over my words a few times and I was super nervous, I backed out. Clients did not, I did. So I say to them, I'm going to hold off on the paperwork. And I remember the look in the man's eyes, and he seemed kind of surprised because I did set the expectation that after the showing, if we decided to proceed, that I would ask them to sign this. So he was most likely ready for that. But because I'm just so in my feelings, so to speak, I tell them I'm going to hold off and we'll worry about that after the next time we go out. So now I'm going to go another 2 hours from where I typically work to do showings. Another big mistake. Nonetheless, we keep in contact via text, and I'm checking in with the husband and the wife, putting together in a text message. I'm offering property show, we think this one, that one, based on their preferences, and they are saying yes or no, and they also say I'd like to see this one, that one. So we come up with about 2 homes we'd like to see on a particular morning. I rearrange my schedule so that I can be there, because don't forget I have to travel 2 hours to get to where the area of the homes they want to see. So that particular one was super hectic. My kids had just started school, and they were doing half days, which means I just had barely enough time to drop them off at school, travel 2 hours, show these homes, in both of these homes in less than an hour, and then get back to pick them up from school. Are you getting where this is going? I'm sure you are. So we get to the first home. I get there early. I'm ready. I'm going to unlock the lockbox so that I can go in, cut on the lights. I once again study the home, but this time I have my application pulled up so that as soon as they walk in the door, I can pull the home up, simply scroll. I won't have to stammer and stammer. No issues. I'll have all the information and I'll feel confident about it. I go to the door to unlock it, to I put the code into the lockbox to get the key, and the code's not working. Well, why is the code not working? So I called the listing agent. The listing agent tells me we had 9 showings yesterday, and it worked. Well, great. I'm so happy to hear that. However, it's not working now. She says, I'd love to help you. I'm 2 hours away. I can be there in 2 hours. Well, in 2 hours, we know I don't have 2 hours. They don't have 2 hours. And now my clients are pulling up. So I'm outside sweating profusely because it's so hot outside. We cannot get in the home. So by this point, we were on a very tight schedule. We needed to see this home in about 20 minutes, and we needed to be on the way to the second home. So I say I can maybe try to reschedule this later. And I can maybe have another agent come out if you need to see it today, but we really need to get on to the second location. They seem a little irritated, but they're not, I don't know if that irritation is geared towards me or not. I'm just feeling like, oh my God, not again, not again. I'm not screwing this up yet again. So they get in their car, I get in my car. They go in front of me because they're familiar with the area, and I'm following them. Suddenly, I look at my GPS. My GPS is telling me that I'm going further and further away from the property that we're going to see. And I really want to get there early. So I decide, hey, they're kind of local, so they're probably going a way that they're familiar with, but it's not as fast as my GPS. So I take a left when they take a right, thinking I'm taking a shortcut.
It was at this moment he knew he fucked up.
And guess what happens next? If you guessed it was not a shortcut, you were right. Not only was it not a shortcut, but my GPS is rerouting me to a completely different address, and I am lost in an area that I am unfamiliar with. My GPS is taking me in circles to the same address, the same place that is not where my buyers currently are. And of course, they text me and say, hey, we're here. And I call them, I said, hey, no problem. I got turned around, but I'm heading there now. They're like, oh, okay, well, I thought you were right behind us. I said, I was. I took a wrong turn. Forgive me. I should be there in a few minutes. This is before I realized that my GPS is possessed and it has absolutely no intention of taking me to the correct property. So they call me and they tell me cars are starting to arrive and there's someone going in. And so I asked them, they let my buyers in. They're just looking, and I am lost and somehow getting more and more confused and further away from where I need to be. So finally I call them because I'm just so frustrated. I could just crumble up into a ball or crawl up under my car, and I say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to get there. I don't know where I am, and I think that you guys need an agent that's more familiar with the area. And the man sounds a little shocked, and he says, oh, okay. And I continue to apologize, and I say, but I will definitely have an agent reach out to you by the end of the day. And he says, okay, thank you. And he hangs up. I then somehow find my way back 2 hours towards home, pick up my children, late. I contact an agent, and that is that. Notice how the story is how I lost my first clients. The funny thing is I didn't lose them. Well, technically I did lose them because they were in one location and I was in the other, but they never told me we have no desire to work with you. They never said we want to work with another agent. They never said we're not willing to sign an agreement. I, being so flustered in my own head, freely gave them up. And that obviously was a mistake. But because I could not get out of my own head about it, I gave up my own clients. So I told that long, ridiculous story to encourage you. You can do this. And yeah, mishaps are going to happen. But don't quit on yourself. There's a ton of knowledge to be gained. There's a lot of things to learn. But you can learn it. Thanks for joining me for that story time, you guys. Stay tuned for my next video where we're going to talk about fees and exactly how much money it's costing me to be a real estate agent, so that when you are ready to take your test and jump into this field, you'll be a little more prepared than I was. As always, it's been a pleasure. Until next time.
That's all, folks.